Yeah, my name is Slava and my nickname is Ptrk. And here is the short version of my bio, the milestones of my life. I graduated as a journalist in Federal University in Yekaterinburg. But I decided not to be a journalist. I decided to be a kind of independent artist, and I started to do some art in 2010, and already 40 years I'm doing some art outside and sometimes inside. In 2016, we with my wife moved to Moscow from Yekaterinburg, and I started to work with one gallery in Moscow and start doing some indoor shows like a classical art. And 2 years after that, we with my friends and colleagues decided to make kind of our own street art festival called Carte Blanche. It's French words. It means blank paper, blank card, and total freedom of any action. So it's a really unique festival because we don't have any permissions, we don't have any sponsorships, we don't have any connections with government, and everything is illegal. Guerilla festival. So we made kind of crowdfundings, companies for that, and sell some art from our artists to raise some money for that festival. And we stopped to hold it in 2022 because of that. Yeah, some more details about my biography. In 2022, I left Russia in September of 2022, and I moved temporarily to Montenegro, spent about a year in Montenegro, made some projects and exhibitions there, and right now I'm here with Artists at Risk and ZKM residency. Yeah, I made this map to show where is my hometown. It's Yekaterinburg, called Yekaterinburg, kind of German word. It's in the middle of Russia, Ural Mountains region. And it's called one of the capital of some unofficial cultures like rock culture, rock music culture, and street art culture also. So what are we gonna talk about today? It will be kind of brief history of Russian street art with only essential and necessary events, phenomena, and names. After this short journey to the past of our public art scene, I will show you some up-to-date works from Russia that were made during the war and abroad. I mean, not only in Russia but abroad by Russian artists. This is the kind of plan for our lecture. Main basis of our modern street art culture. Everything is really objective. It's my point of view, so you can disagree with this statement. But anyway, this is my vision of the situation. Political agenda actions not only in 2000s but in 90s too. For example, it was really. Developing of street art culture in Russia, murals, some interesting murals, new movement of new monumental propaganda in Russia that we faced in the middle of 10th, and we had like a dialogue or monologue with our state, of course, because street art is always about the dialogue with environment, with people, with everything. Something about our text-centered culture, because I think it's one of a common point about Russian culture, about our literature. We are really text-centered, text-based kind of culture. And street art, our street art is too. Political agenda and social critique in the works of street artists. New medias, new technologies, because we are in ZKM, but not so many street artists used and use now some new technologies. We prefer analog and old medias. And some new strategies of doing street art in Excel or inside Russia nowadays. So, what to expect from this presentation? My subjective vision of all this stuff and history, and I only picked up some of the most important moments. And it will be a lot of pictures, of course, because it's better to see than to hear if you work with visual art, and a lot of Russian names. Sorry for that. And sometimes I need to explain a lot of context, but briefly, because street art everywhere is really site-specific, and you have to know the history of a place, you need to know the political context, and so on. Rough translations of all our text works. I did my best. Yeah, that's it. So we are starting from Soviet monumental propaganda. It's one of the bases, I think, from my point of view, it's one of the bases of our visual culture right now, and basis of street art. Like it, do we like it or not? I mean, not many artists consider it as a fundamental stuff of our culture and some basis of their work. So in Soviet Union we have a lot of murals, bas reliefs, mosaics, sculptures, monuments, and all these works were part of monumental propaganda. So Soviet Union had a really strong and strict vision of present and future and past, and a really strict and solid idea to give to audience. Now we don't have anything like that in Russia, of course. It's ideology. It's really strong and solid ideology that they try to explain you through murals, mosaics, and of course a lot of sculptures and monuments. Yeah, and many of them used slogans, some texts, to talk to you directly without any images, I mean. And I should say that a lot of them, not most of them, but a lot of them are still there. They still exist, even in Ukraine, for example, or even in, I don't know, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and in these countries. You can find in Eastern European countries a lot of Soviet monuments, and all these monuments are part of course, main propaganda. And yeah, I just show a few examples, but I think everyone has seen at least one or a few mosaics or murals with all these characters, I don't know, fighters, workers, soldiers, and so on, especially in Eastern Germany, for example. These two pictures were taken by me, yeah, from different cities in Russia. Interesting examples. And you can see the high quality that it was with solid ideology, but it was made by really professional artists and high quality production. Not everywhere, but in the main cities you can find really good examples of this art still. And of course everywhere in the public space, not only outside, but for example in our train stations, in our subway. This is this one from Kievskaya metro station, subway station in Moscow. Mural, underground mural. Next base that really important for our speech is Moscow conceptualist and unofficial art from Soviet Union, Soviet nonconformists. They were illegal, so they were working without any audience, without any shows, exhibitions, and only small number of artists and their friends knew about that layer of culture, and they had only a few possibilities to show their art somewhere. And of course, they didn't have any budgets to produce their art, so they use low budget materials, low budget genres of art. And this is a really interesting moment that we still have this movement of, Moscow, especially Moscow conceptualists, not St. Petersburg conceptualists, not from other cities, but Moscow conceptualists that focused on conceptual and idea focused works. And we were working with everyday life and description and depicting of everyday life in USSR in critical way, but with some nostalgia sometimes, and with some love to this everyday life. And most of them really liked to use text in their works because of official slogans. Again, and I think they influenced to our modern artists really much. Okay, so 4 main names of our Moscow conceptualist and nonconformist. It's a collective action art group, and their leader Andrei Monastyrsky, Ilya Kabakov, Eric Bulatov, Viktor Pivovarov. And interesting moment that all of them were immigrants in the middle of 80s. They were fled from Soviet Union, and Eric Bulatov, for example, he's still alive. He lives in Paris, for example. Ilya Kabakov lived in New York, and Viktor Pivovarov, I don't remember where, but not in Russia, not in the Soviet Union. And only one of these 4 collective actions art group. It's hard to translate the whole meaning of this slogan. Only one of these 4 used public space for their works. They made kind of performances, or as they call it, actions, in empty and snowed fields somewhere near Moscow. They just went there and did some strange stuff there, and this is one of the most important and most famous work, this banner with slogan, "I'm not complaining about anything and I liked everything, even though I've never been here and don't know anything about these places." They made a few versions of this slogan with the same message. It was a line, as I know, it was a line from diary of one of the participants of this art group. Another artist that you have to know, it's Ilya Kabakov, and he invented this genre of contemporary art called total installation. Something a bit maybe sounds strange, but it looks like this. It's like 3-dimensional art with everything in. But as I know, you can go inside this installation. It's called "The Man Who Flew into Space" from his flat, from his apartment. And Ilya Kabakov made not only paintings and drawings, but also this kind of total installations. They are quite popular in different museums around the world right now, and you can meet them somewhere. It's another installation from him about everyday life in communal apartment. We had a lot of communal apartments in St. Petersburg, in Moscow, everywhere in Russia, and sometimes you can still find these communal flats, for example, in St. Petersburg. And this is a really specific kind of everyday life in these sharing spaces of communal flat. So, and Ilya Kabakov spent a lot of time in these flats, and he tried to describe, to explain something important about this this kind of existence. Let me say existence. Another important artist from Moscow conceptualist is Eric Bulatov, one of my favorite artists of all time. He is still alive, he is still working. He does paintings, as you can see. Oil, canvas, classic genre, but with a bit strange and surrealistic stories on it, surrealistic plots. And he used and uses a lot of text in his works also. For example, this called "Добро пожаловать", it means welcome, with picture from VDNH. I don't know, it's one of touristic place in Moscow, let me say that. Viktor Pivovarov, last name from this list of Moscow conceptualists, and he made a lot of works with texts, also with instructions, kind of instructions. This is, for example, he made projects for the lonely man, and he tried to describe the everyday life of lonely man and what stuff does he have, and how to use it, for what he can use it, and it's kind of trying to create a system of everyday life from this chaos of our chaotic, strange life. He tried to make a kind of system. And yeah, this is one of his famous work, Moscow Party. A bit surrealistic and with Beatles influences, of course, you can see here. Next step is post-Soviet Union strategies, post-Soviet Union approaches from crazy 90s, as we call it in Russia, and new generations of actionists from beginning of the century. Like Война, it means war art group Pussy Riot, probably you know them, and Peter Polensky. And another important moment is, of course, hip hop and classical graffiti culture that really influenced to our street art, modern street art culture, obviously. And some of first festivals, murals, and magazines and events from the beginning of modern Russian street art. And let me show you a few examples of 90s actionism, of 90s actions, art actions, for example. It's always tough to translate the name of the art group and the name of the action, but I try. Eti, it means this, or yeah, this about somebody, and this action called text, just a text. With their body, these people just made the, I don't know, penis, dick, something like that on a red square. You can see the two policemen here, and of course they had some problems, but not really serious problems after that, because it's in the end of Soviet era. It's not really, it's not even Russia. It's last year of Soviet era. Another one example of 90s actions. It's by this one by Anatoly Osmolovsky. Oh, I don't know how to read it. It's name of Nisiduk Journey to the Land of Blomdingongs. Okay, the point is he ordered the skylift and asked to put him on the shoulder of Mayakovsky, of a great Russian writer Mayakovsky, of monument of Mayakovsky in the center of Moscow, and he was just sitting there and smoking cigarette, and made these perfect photos. Looks interesting. Another important moment from this year by Oleg Kulik, when he played dog in his performances. It's called Mad Dog, or the Last Taboo Guarded by the Lonely Cerberus. It was one of the first modern art gallery created by Marat Gelman. Maybe you know this guy. Now he is in Montenegro, and he also created this action that started the whole career of Oleg Kulik, as I know. And we are going to the new century, of course, with new generation of actionists in Russia. All of them, or most of them, are really radical about political statements, about political situation in Russia, and we have some examples of art from the beginning of this century, but now I think all of them or most of them are not active really. For example, Война, or War art group, and one of the most radical and monumental kind of, I don't know, action or mural, you can call it mural, why not? It's called, again, it's dirty words in original, penis in the custody of the FSB, something like that. Because this huge picture was made in the front of FSB office in St. Petersburg. They made it with, it was like a spray guns or something like that, as I know, in 15 seconds. They had only 15 seconds to do it. Another milestone from our modern art history, of course, Pussy Riot and Mother of God, Banish Putin. Probably you know this performance, one of the most important and famous for Russian, modern Russian culture. And after that, they sentenced for 2 years. Two of them were sentenced and spent 2 years in prison. It was a new law made especially for them. We hadn't had this law before. They created it. Our government created this law especially for Pussy Riot, and it's called like insulting of the feelings of believers, of Orthodox believers, of course, because only their feelings are important in Russia. And another name is Petr Pavlensky. Now he is in Paris. And recent years he is not so active, but in the middle of 10th he was really famous and important for our counterculture, let me say. And this is one of his most famous and radical performance, The Threat, when he fired up the door to the main FSB office in Moscow on Lubyanka. Quite dangerous action, let me say. And here we are moving really fast to other aspect of our street art culture. It's classical graffiti and hip-hop culture. Like everywhere, you can find the roots of street art in graffiti, and they are always connected and part of each other. And hip-hop came to Russia in 90s, in the middle of 90s, and yeah, first street artists, nowadays street artists started from graffiti, of course. We can't ignore this part of our culture. We can't ignore this part of our history. And in the beginning of the century, first festivals appeared in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, in many places in Russia, Most of them were connected with hip-hop culture. We had a series of festivals called Sneakers. Yeah, Sneakers. It's a name of a brand, Sneakers Urbania. These festivals included not only musical part and, I don't know, breakdancers and hip-hop part, I don't know, MCs, battles of MCs, but also street art, I mean graffiti, and this special stands for graffiti, to make graffiti there. And a lot of artists started their career from Sneakers Urbania, for example. Yeah, in 2003, one of the most important festivals started in Yekaterinburg. It's called Long Stories of Yekaterinburg, and they preferred to use these long fences around the city, long walls, and create kind of stories, cartoons in horizontal dimension. After 2010, they moved to Perm city in rural region, and started another festival, Long Stories of Perm, in this city, and a few other public art programs. For example, this one of the most famous piece of Russian public art. Happiness is just around the corner. We have a lot of versions of this text, and it's still there in Perm. A few more public art festivals that started their work in the beginning of the century. It's Art of Vrak festival in really small town Viksa, 200 kilometers from Moscow, and Arstoyania festival, also really interesting and important event in Nikolai Lenivets. It's really like a village, quite small village in Kaluga region near Moscow too. So, and during these years, first magazines and mass medias appeared in Russia, started to make publications, started to make kind of archives about street art and graffiti. And let's talk about nowadays. Cultural flourishing, formation, blooming of our street art culture in 2010s and till the beginning of full-scale war, for example, and after. Maybe it's not a really fancy content, but I want to show you a few examples of modern Russian propaganda, how some artists can make a dialogue with this propaganda. Also, some texts from modern artists and actions, installations, and some other important works from our street art history. And with Russian street art in exile or in underground, because most of our colleagues stayed inside the country, and some of them are still active. One of the important projects for Moscow, for example, culture, for Moscow street art culture, was the wall project in Vinzavod Cultural Center in Moscow. It was one long wall that suggested to different artists, like layer by layer, to make some pictures on it. This black and white one with dollars was by Pasha 183. It's one of he was called as a Russian Banksy, and the colorful one by Kirill Kto for the same project, with his text about graffiti cans and using of these cans. In 2012, Street Art Museum appeared in St. Petersburg, started their exhibitions and inviting artists to make some pieces for the not only temporary space but also permanent collection. They had permanent collection, and they stopped the their job, their work in right after the beginning of war in 2022. Another important event from our culture is Atmosphere Street Art Biennale. They are still active since 2014. It's a huge event, and they said that they are only one street art biennale in the world. I don't know, maybe it's true, but it's really a massive event. This one, as I said, some small towns and cities in Russia get their own festivals with murals and public arts. It's not like a common thing, but few small towns got events like this, and Art Vrak in Viksa, they have not only public art program but mural program too. And Pasha 1A3 made, for example, this mural for this festival in 2012. Another new festival created, how to say it, created by some people, by some creative people in Yekaterinburg in the beginning of 10th. It's called Stenografia, and I was a part of this festival, and they were invited, and they are still active. This year they are making 15th edition of the festival. First years they preferred to invite a lot of artists from abroad. For example, this one from German artist Herakut. And for example, this one from Interesnikaski from Kiev. Duo of artists from Kiev made in 2012. Moscow also had some street art, its own festivals of street art. One of that called Most. And many of my colleagues made some murals for this festival. It was 2014. And Dixa festival again. This one mural from me. Another festival self-organized by one of our colleagues, Nikita Nomers, in his hometown Nizhny Novgorod. It's like a second capital of street art. We have two main cities with two main scenes of street art. It's Yekaterinburg and Nizhny Novgorod. But also, of course, we have a lot of works in our two main capitals, in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. A few more examples of different murals in different cities, all kinds of genres, as you can see, all kinds of styles. Some of these artists had an opportunity to work not only in Russia but abroad, but only few of them. We didn't have like an international scene of street art, only just a few examples. One of them, fortunately, was Nikita Nomers. He made this Mesto festival, and he's still really active street artist, but now not only in Russia. This is for Mesto festival in Nizhny Novgorod by John from Kaliningrad. Just want to show you the range of styles and approaches in our street art. This one, a classical one by Pasha, 1A3 in Moscow. Also we had and still have some illegal murals, and previous one was an example of that, and these two made by Ozik. You can read it as an Ozik. His nickname, his name is Zhenya, and his nickname is Ozik, and he preferred and he prefers to work with fire extinguisher, to put some paint inside with pressure and paint some expressive picture illegally. Also, he has these two Christmas trees. It's kind of tradition for him. A few years he made these different Christmas trees around Moscow. Previous and these murals were made illegally, as you can see. For example, this one by Toy Crew in Nizhny Novgorod. Nizhny Novgorod is a pretty good area, pretty good place to work with street art, because they have a lot of abandoned old buildings, and you can paint without any problems on it. This is an illegal mural by art group for the International Women's Day, for example, in St. Petersburg, made in St. Petersburg like 5 years ago. As I said, in 2018, we started to make our own illegal street art festival in Ekaterinburg, and I want to show you a few examples of our murals, of our works. Also, sometimes we went bigger, not only small interventions in public space, but some of our artists decided to make something big, but illegally big. Like this, or for example, like this. You can call it mural, but it's an illegal mural. We didn't have any permission to do that. A lot of artists use abandoned spots, yeah, to avoid any problems with government, with police, and so on, and with dwellers. For example, this one made by Chervi on a wall of abandoned school in Uralmash district in Yekaterinburg. And of course, capitalism, business still try to use street art in their own work. Let me say work. And in the middle of 10th, we faced a lot of different murals / ads in Moscow and around the country. And this is one of the examples. For the new episode of Star Wars, I guess. Yeah, and our government noticed street art too. Noticed these mural traditions again, and decided to use it again. They stopped for a while in 90s and for the beginning of the century. But in 10th, they started to order to make commissions for some artists to make a lot of murals with patriotic message or, I don't know, some propagandistic messages. Let me show you a few examples. A lot of them are about Second World War, about the great victory of Soviet Union in Second World War. It's one of the commonplace for official Putin's statement, for his culture, kind of culture. And yeah, now we can see a lot of murals with our heroes of war and marshals, commanders, so on. And they continued to do something like this during the COVID crisis, Corona crisis. For example, this mural from Yekaterinburg, from my hometown, with text like "Thank you for your courage and for your work." Kind of poor style mural, but yeah, somebody ordered it and paid for that, and somebody did it. And it was going worse since the beginning of war on the eastern part of Ukraine, and since the annexion of Crimea. Suddenly appeared some strange official project set. You can translate it as a set project, and for a few years they made a lot of propagandistic and really low quality murals like this. It's like a celebration of Day of Russia and the year 2014, and we take it back, something like that. It's probably about Crimea. So yeah, we faced these murals accidentally in 2014 and 2015, I guess. And of course, when you have something so brutal in it low quality, you can get some reaction to this. And for example, this example from Crimea, you can read it on the right side, like "Glory to Ukraine," and this is a portrait of this guy. and mixed with other guy, you know. And I participated in this dialogue, let me say dialogue too. And also I, one day in 2016, I went to Minsk, and it's in Belarus, and refreshed a propagandistic mural by some of my colleagues that was made in Minsk, in the capital of Belarus. It was about friendship of Minsk and Moscow, friendship of Russia and Belarus, and these two characters, boy and girl. You can see, and I decided to add some barbed wire into these flowers. Yeah. Close up, small close up. It was an illegal action, of course, but we did it successfully. It was a part of my project called Upgrade, when I tried to add something new in a propagandistic and commission works, commission murals, to change the meaning of this mural. And this one, for example, from Kolomna, it's a small town in Moscow region. Let me translate this text. Yeah, definitely it's a portrait of Putin. Text is, you support the world and the whole world supports you. Yeah, the really interesting example of our modern propaganda. Yeah, but really poor style painting, really poor style mural. And we, with friends, decided to change it and to add something more critical. And instead of this planet, we painted this crown. Yeah, but we didn't finish it because of police. And a few more examples of modern Russian propaganda, military propaganda, last 2 years of full-scale war. This one says work fellows, something like that, with children, with Z letters, of course. Yeah, now we have a lot of murals like this in Russia, and a few more terrible examples. This is a portrait of somebody, some soldier from Russian army. Yeah, he died somewhere in Ukraine, and now we have his portrait somewhere in Russia. I don't know, maybe in Nizhny Novgorod too, maybe in some other city. And the right one with this green soldier with Z and girl with Russian flag. Okay, this is a great example. I found it, and the description said that it was made in Mariupol, in occupied Mariupol. I don't know, is it true or not, but yeah, that's a good examples. And another few murals, not only in Russia, but also in occupied territories, like in Mariupol, for example. The right one with text like, became stronger than a steel, or something like that. And children and everything. And the left one was made in Moscow, with soldiers, with Z letters, and all the important details. But in 2022, you could find some answers to this propaganda. Now probably you can't find something like that, but in the beginning of war, we had some examples of answers to this aggressive visual propaganda. And yeah, I have two pictures of that. Most of the anti-war movement in Russia anonymous, so we don't have any real artworks on the streets, anti-war artworks, but we still have some texts, fast texts against war and against Putin. You still can find something like that in Moscow, I think in every city in Russia. Let me show you a few examples of reaction of our street art society to the beginning of war. This one by Filipenzo. It's a new version of his old work that was called Happiness it's now, and he changed his own mural to war. It's now one of the most important artists in our scene. It's Timofey Radia from Yekaterinburg, and this is his last project for the moment. He made this slogan in Yekaterinburg, in this abandoned rooftops, in some residential district in Yekaterinburg. Life in the past, or life. Let me try to translate it. Yeah, life is in the past. Yeah, why not? Another example by Misha Marker. He is still Timofey Radia. He is still in Russia, and Misha Marker is still there in St. Petersburg. He prefers to work with posters, so with posters by him. Homeland vs. War 1 and 1. This one kind of it was before the war, but really up to date right now. By Zlie, it can be translated as evils art group from Yekaterinburg. What are you gonna do when the war starts? You can see the date. It was before the war, full scale war. This one by Radia, not connected with topic of war, but still quite important piece of our street art. I would argue, but I can argue, or I would argue, but I'm just a text. And let me mention that most of these works made illegally. This one made legally for the library in Tomsk city, as I know, by Vladimir Rabich. We are letters. Text is with us. As you can see, text is quite important for our, not only for our writers and poets and musicians, but for street artists too. This is one of the last work by Vladimir Rabich. The last works are lost, made in Yekaterinburg, as I know. Kirill Kto, our friend and colleague from Moscow, prefers to work with text a lot, not only short text, but also long text, like thoughts, like thoughts from a diary, for example, transferred to the wall, transferred outside. The difference between a home and a street is that you have the home and we have a street, but and maybe that's why we love it so much, and you don't love it. It's a question to the audience. This one by Ilya Mozgi. In Nizhny Novgorod there is no fire anymore, but every second is warmer because of you. Sorry for translation. It's tough to translate the poems. But this one made for our Carte Blanche festival in Yekaterinburg. We are all equal to 0. This one made after the beginning of full-scale war in Moscow region by Andrei Toja. Now he is in Belgrade in Serbia, but this one he made in Kolomna, in his hometown in Russia. We come with peace, you can say, but with something, not peace. This is one of the most important and famous piece of anti-war movement, anti-war movement in Russia during these last 2 years. Really hard to translate. You can't. I asked Philippines about the right translation, but he said it's a play of words and you can't translate it. But it's a mix of Russia and rape or raping. Yeah, kind of like that. This one made by Sergei Avseykin from the Club Art Group in Montenegro. We have arrived. We have reached our final point. This one made by me before the war, and it's kind of unusual using of text because it's something between text work and performance and action. It was a dance. We gathered 100 people 50 couples of dancers, and they were dancing on the surface of snow lake in Yekaterinburg. It was in March of 2018. 18th, yeah, before another presidential elections in Russia, and in one moment they stopped, and from drone, from copter, you can see the text. Approximate translation. Fuck it, let's dance. Yeah, it was about optimism and continuing of your moving. Keep pushing. Another performance by Timofey Radia. It's called Stability. It's figure number 1 from his series of figures. Stability. Yeah, with throne and with this guy like a cope. It was a performance near Yekaterinburg. Another example of anti-police topic from our scene by Pasha 183, and a few more examples of using environment. As you can see, these were doors of Moscow subway. So if you wanna go inside, you have to push this guy with this policeman, and after that go in. And Pasha used the urban environment really clever. Yeah, other Russian artists can do some beautiful works with urban environment too. For example, this one by Ivan Volkov. He made a series of works with snow. We have a lot of snow during the winter, so he has a lot of material for his works. One of the most famous piece of Russian street art by Nikita Nomers, and his face on this tower in Nizhny Novgorod. One of the earliest work by Timofey Radia in Yekaterinburg. Also, these works were made illegally. This one too, on a bridge in Yekaterinburg. Yeah, and street art, it's always about dialogue. It's always about game and play with context, with the city, to add something special to the city, and find some details and change it in your way, to add some new meanings to the city context. Yeah, this one by me, for example, when I tried to study, to research the surface and make these copies for the original surface on the wall, to make this illusion of 3D effect. Yeah, some more works with play, with context and urban environment. You just need to add some small details and change the whole vision of the wall, of the context. These two by one of the, I think, best street artists, Zoom, from Moscow. Yeah, he worked with really nice characters and really nice topics, and yeah, he knew how to use the context. This one by me, really unusual, abstract, white shapes. Yeah, I tried to avoid any contacts with janitors in Moscow, and tried to save my art from them. So I tried to hide my art and made these unusual forms of street art. And sometimes you can use again unusual surfaces in the city, for example staircases, and add something there. Not so many artists used this type of surfaces. Or you can go further and bring something serious, like an installation to the city, like this installation by me and Sergei Karyev, made in the front of Kremlin in Moscow, especially for the Day of Police. We have this holiday, special holiday in November. This one by Igor Ponosov, quite serious work to do because it's real shades, kind of real shades and fences mixed. Yeah, and sometimes you can use not only walls and other surfaces of the city, but you can give to the city some tools to make work in collaboration with you, like we made with Vladimir Abich in 2013, this project called Street Art. It was a project about homeless people and about ecological situation in our cities, and we used sticky surfaces of these white canvases and photos of real homeless people, and installed our white canvases on the streets, and after a few days these faces appeared on these white canvases, like a city painted it itself. Yeah, it's about interactive things. For example, this by Vladimir Abich. He made a console, special console with remote control and projector, put it in the front of the facet, and made kind of game to play on this facet with air conditions. Or you can use augmented reality, AR, new technologies with your Instagram, with your iPhone, and add some new layers, some new dimensions to your flat paintings or flat posters. Also, we made something like that in 2019 when we recreated the destroyed, abandoned tower in Yekaterinburg. It was one of the symbol of our city, but our government decided to destroy it, and we recreated it in our My Tower project. It's like an app. It was like an app for your phone, and you can install it and revisit the same places where was this tower and find it in the same size, with same details, with everything like a real tower. Yeah, and now we have a situation when not a lot, but some of the artists decided to move, to leave. And now we have artists abroad, not only in Russia, Russian artists not only in Russia. For example, this one by Dasha Goffman for last edition of our Karbanch Festival in Armenia. Air of freedom for the price of changes. Yeah, something like that. A few more examples. This one from me and my colleagues made in Helsinki. This one by Sasha Blot in Armenia, I guess. After our moving to Montenegro, I started a new series of works called Black Series with these abstract shapes, abstract paintings. Let me show you a few examples. Made in Montenegro because they have a lot of abandoned, demolished, desolated venues, empty spaces what you can use for your art without any problems. Yeah, Vladimir Abich joins us too, and made a few murals there too. Also, I started a new DIY initiative called Postscriptum Projects. It's like a series of exhibitions in abandoned venues around Balkan region. This one from House on the Mountain, from the first of our project. This one from the second, Auto Center Gallery, Auto Center Podgorica Gallery in Montenegro, with a lot of works by different artists. And yeah, some of our colleagues decided to leave and now work abroad, like Nikita Nomers in Germany. And some of them decided to stay and to struggle against all this stuff, against all this situation, and trying to say something, still to say something inside Russia. For example, this one made by Kunst and Russian Anti-War Committee inside Russia in Moscow. It's a play of word too. Yeah, that's it. And yeah, thank you for your attention.